Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the amateur where I'm not necessarily a professional in any way, shape, or form, but we're here just to kind of have a discussion. On this episode, we are continuing our talk on abortion, especially with the major case that's hit the Supreme Court. And so Jubilee has pushed out this pro-abortion, anti-abortion video, and I'm going to be mostly responding to the pro-abortion sides and the comments that they have to make and just rebuttals to everything. So here we go. So I think even just starting off, I don't mean to pause it so quickly but when you think about things that are moral and immoral, you have to look at the broad spectrum of things that you find to be immoral and you hold it to those same standards. So what I mean by this is for the pro-abortion side, they have to take, in order for them to understand the anti-abortion side is to take something that they hold immoral and apply the same logic. So something that is the two biggest things that are akin to what abortion does is slavery and rape. Okay, those are two really horrible things that I don't think anyone really supports morally, at least, even if those things still occur. But they have been outlawed, they have been legal. And with slavery, it was once a legal act within the state and across the world. Again, slavery is not a racist institution. It was just an institution that has been input across the world. It didn't start with, maybe it did with the Muslim. Either way, point of the matter is that slavery is not based off race, even though in America that's where it came to be. But anyway, continuing the video.
If you agree, step forward. If you disagree, stay put. Nobody likes abortions.
Keep pausing on the wrong video. So nobody likes abortions. I want to say no, but then there are also some people that truly revile and evil. So I feel like there are going to be some people that truly like abortions. They know that they're killing their child. They know that it's the life inside of them, and they take great pleasure in doing anything that pisses off the that Judeo-Christian perspective of the human value of life. So I think some people do like abortions. Let's see what these people got to say.
I celebrate abortion, and I think that campaigns like Shout Your Abortion aren't about like getting in your face, but women who choose to have abortions suffer a lot of stigma and trauma from people who stand outside clinics and have grotesque images and literally, damning your soul. Abortion as a medical procedure and resource is something that I do celebrate. It's a human right, and I love abortion.
Abortion is a human right. Is it? I don't think so. I really don't think so. So again, we keep using these euphemisms for abortion, but abortion is a mother killing her child in the child's most protective environment, which is a mother's womb. And it's a womb that was intentionally made and created and purposed for carrying a child, doing exactly what it's supposed to when you engage in activities that bring about children, which is sex, procreation. You're procreating, it's in the name, you're reproducing. The act of sex is reproducing. Once a baby is there, you've reproduced. So you are past reproductive rights because the child has already been produced, right? So is it a human right to kill your child? I thought it was a human right to life, to not be killed, especially unintentionally or intentionally, for not doing any wrong. Definition of wrong is committing a crime, at least legally, and the baby has done neither, so I don't think abortion is a human right. But let's move on.
I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Austin, Texas, and I am very pro-abortion. I think that legislation like SB 8 opens the door and the path towards handing over our bodily autonomy to the state. I don't understand how anyone can justify using their personal beliefs to take away the rights of others.
So I think slavery was considered a right back in the day, and nowhere else in the world were people considering outlawing it because it was a common practice. I want to say nowhere else. I think the UK was also on the brink of, or they were also in the process of abolishing slavery. But again, it was definitely a belief of many Christian perspectives and some other perspectives that slavery was a moral wrong, though it was legal. And people were doing it and holding slaves against their will. But that was their beliefs being forced on the states' rights. And you'll hear this, how the South wasn't fighting for slavery, they were fighting for states' rights, which was also slavery. So it was the state rights to have slavery. Point of the matter is that people have definitely used their beliefs in order to combat something that was immorally wrong. So this is not a different issue, so to speak. So moving on.
Biological fathers should have an equal say in abortions.
So my first take on this question, as far as fathers being able to have an equal say in abortion, well, one, I don't think abortion should be equal. Like, no one should have a say in abortion, because abortion should be an option as one of the choices that women have. Women have so many choices, it's ridiculous. And abortion should be one of them for neither the woman nor the father. But technically, like, the father has a say in whether they have an abortion or not. And I know for some women have held their child hostage. And some women still do to the fathers, but some use it as a scapegoat, or they don't want their father to have that child of theirs, and so they will use abortion just to kind of spite their man. But I know those are rare instances. I think I don't know. I'm just saying that, but yes, I think fathers should have, like, it takes two to tango. This child didn't get there on its own, so. Continuing.
You left us, man. I want to know why.
There's a struggle.
I'm mad conflicted about this because I strongly feel like a man should not have control over what a woman does with her body. I more so have an issue with when a man doesn't actually want that baby. She wants it and then expects this man to, like, be the ultimate provider and child care and all this extra stuff, right? But in the case of if the man wanted it, the baby, and the woman didn't want it, he has no say so. I think that's a fucked up dynamic. So that's why I was going back and forth.
Well, you should have stayed then. It sounds like you're for men having more rights.
I just can't force a woman to be like, no, you have to do this, because I think it's fucked up. It's her body.
But it's also a child's life in there. It's not just her body, it's a child's life.
And it's
in there.
also your son or daughter.
I think truly, in my eyes, it's like, it's my body. I get to do what I want with it, and I don't think anyone, including the other person who's involved, should have a say whether I want to keep it or whether I want to get an abortion.
So with her whole ideology there about it's my body, I get to do whatever I want with my body. No, you don't get to do whatever you want with your body. That's kind of how laws work, especially when whatever you do with your body affects somebody else. So that's why rape is okay, because do the dynamic of a male raping a woman. I know women can rape men as well, but that just tends to be the more common or more reported incident. So man gains so much. It's in his best interest to get his rocks knocked off. So I don't know the phrase. I say this wrong, but anyway, it's best interest to get his little high or whatever and force himself upon another woman, even though it's not within the woman's best interest. And we say that that's wrong because that's forcing himself on someone against his will. And so the same principle applies when you are taking someone's life against their will, which is the child, and you can't say, well, I know that the child doesn't want this or does want this, whatever. Point of the matter is, if you leave your body alone, you get to, the child will grow, because that's what it's meant to do. That's what it's made to do. And if it doesn't grow, then it dies. It's a miscarriage or it's a stillborn. Then that's not abortion, because the baby has passed. So it's not the same case, right? So again, it's not up to, like, you women, you make your choice. You made your choice when you decided to sleep with the man that impregnated you. That was your choice. That was your decision. You didn't ask if he had a vasectomy. You didn't ask to see if he was an infertile man. You didn't ask to make sure that, or you didn't make sure that you removed your womb to remove all possibilities. You didn't get your tubes tied. You didn't take your birth control, whatever. You engaged in a risk that knowingly leads to that result. You don't get to just throw that away, especially when men don't get to just throw away their responsibility. So the answer isn't men get to walk away, so women get to walk away. It's none of y'all get to walk away. Be careful of your decisions and make smarter choices. So moving on.
My name is Asher, currently reside in Las Vegas, and I'm for pro-abortion. I used to be against abortion until an unwanted pregnancy happened to me. If you know for a fact that you're not even gonna be the best parent for that child, or you can't provide for that child, or maybe you're just fearful and don't wanna pop a child out of you, or just whatever reason that you have, I feel like you shouldn't have to go through with that. You still have that choice over your life, your body.
So my issue with him and his phrase, obviously this sounds bad. It sounds bad, but it gives off the, I won't say deadbeat dad, because obviously he's not a dad. And you'll hear later in the video that he had 2 abortions, maybe by the same woman. I don't know. Point of the matter is, that's the bigger issue of abortion. Again, like, hey man, you don't have, like, you can make decisions to prevent this. All pregnancies are 100% preventable. But the disheartening part here is that basically that abortion isn't the only option. And I know it's not, he's a male, he doesn't have to deal with the burdens of carrying a baby, because that is a woman's burden alone, as I've discussed in previous videos. But you can't, we're different, men and women are different, and we have to treat sex differently. So he can say, yeah, whatever, it's not my body. Yeah, they're kill the baby, give him up, whatever, as long as I don't have to provide. But again, it's like killing abortion isn't the final option, especially once the baby has already been been conceived. That baby could have been given to a very wanting family. I want to say the statistic is there's about 36 parents for every 1 newborn that are willing and ready to adopt. So it's just kind of like that you didn't have to make the decision to kill your child. Is the summary there. So moving on.
I have had an abortion.
A few months ago, I found out that I was pregnant. When I imagined myself finding out I was pregnant for the first time, I wanted it to be celebrated. And in that moment, I felt such severe anxiety. And having that, like the entire time, I was just in a lot of emotional pain, grieving. I was debating about myself, about how I would be looked at or how I would view myself after getting the procedure done.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm nervous. So I'm gonna be real careful with my words. Clearly, as a man, I can't have an abortion. But my girlfriend, we've had 2 abortions. She didn't really want to have a baby. I didn't really want to have a baby. And I know for me, I don't want to be seen as that deadbeat father person, but I knew I wasn't really trying to sacrifice my own dreams or what I was trying to accomplish to be a dad at that point.
I think that's definitely like one of the biggest things to consider, because I wasn't in any kind of position to be a mother, you know? So it's like, I want to get my shit together before I can have a baby and give it a life that it deserves.
So with stuff like this, is like, again, all babies are 100% preventable. So why wasn't this a consideration before you decide to have sex? It's these people say they care about not having unwanted pregnancies or having a pregnancy with someone they're not ready to have a pregnancy, a child with, or with someone that they don't think is good enough to be their father, or what have you, speaking specifically for the woman. But just like, well, then don't engage in sexual activities. I think one of the biggest lies, I mean, we've been given lots of lies. One of the bigger lies, though, is that the female sex drive is just the same as men, when it's really not. And whether it's better or like, it's really not. I think the majority of women don't have as high of a sex drive as a lot of prawn stars and what have you would like to make it seem. So it's just, again, responsibility comes before the child is conceived. And then once the child is conceived, like, that was you literally made your bed and now you need to lay in it. So again, no one's forcing motherhood, no one's forcing fatherhood. I mean, to an extent, but most of the pro-life / pro or anti-abortion are just trying to say, you, as a woman, that is your duty, because only a woman can do this. Like, literally, only a woman has the power to carry children. So that is a responsibility that you have to understand, being a woman, and to carry that baby to birth until you can legally and safely transfer that responsibility to another legal guardian. Just saying.
When I found out I was pregnant, the person that I was with at the time, they were like, I will support you in every way, but I will not be able to be there for you if you decide to keep it. And that definitely influenced my choice. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. I like to think I'm a pretty generous, like, loving person, and the names that I've been called for even getting one, I've gotten evil, psychotic, demented.
And again, the undue influence of a man who doesn't want to own up for responsibilities, but also for the woman, like, don't open your womb to someone who's not going to commit. And that sounds like that man was not willing or ready to commit. So both of y'all at fault. Child's life shouldn't have been on life. I know this is something where not a lot of, like, I say this and I sound very unapologetic, it would seem, or unempathetic, unsympathetic, which to an extent I am, because, again, I do care about not having an unwanted pregnancy, making sure that my child's not raised in a single mother home, that if I do have a child, that I get to raise her all on my own, not on my own, but raise her myself, which is why I'm still a virgin, because, like, that's important to me, you know? So I've been able to go my adult life without having sex with somebody who I thought wasn't worth it or wasn't ready or hadn't committed yet. So and again, I don't think that I'm better than anyone else or worse than anyone else, but I just think it's, let's be real with accountability and where that lies. So,
Problem, whether it's finances, whether it's stability of housing, whether it's relationship issues. My perspective is that we address those issues instead of ending the life of a child.
I disagree. I don't think that abortion is a symptom. People should be able to access abortion when, how, wherever they want or need. I don't think that it's a problem to be fixed. I think that is still stigmatizing.
But I think
it is definitely a problem that needs to be fixed, just as much as slavery is a problem to be fixed, just as much as the rape culture that people came to exist is a problem that needs to be fixed. So I don't necessarily think that there's a rape culture, at least in the 21st century. But yes, it is something that needs to be fixed. It should be stigmatized. It's not a good thing. It's the most, again, anti-feminine thing. It's anti-human, literally. Dehumanizing, just all around horrible. And I think abortion is a symptom, not just of social status or whatever, but it's also just a symptom of poor morals, a poor understanding of the world, a poor understanding of human life and human worth, and having that being valuable throughout all stages of life. Whether you're a 100-year-old or in the womb, like every single human life, that is precious and is, especially when they've done no wrong. We can talk about capital punishment later. But innocent, done nothing wrong. Why do they deserve to die? Why are they worth killing? And my answer is that they're not. So don't. Next.
With everybody.
I'd like to call attention to that point too, just the fact of using abortion as birth control. I thank you for everyone sharing their stories so far. I didn't step forward, I haven't had an abortion myself, but I am a survivor of rape. I was on birth control at the time, and I still made the decision with my medical team that birth control is not 100% effective, and I wanted access to emergency contraceptive to take on top of that. And had that pregnancy or any of those methods failed, I would have chosen to have an abortion, and I'm very grateful that I had access to those resources, and I'm so mindful that there's so many women who don't.
Well, I think it gets down to the heart of the issue here. You know, what is the unborn? Which scientifically the embryo is from conception, a living whole organism with distinct DNA. As a Christian, I come from a worldview that says that.
I think with her statement, again, I'll wait.
A living whole organism with distinct DNA. As a Christian, I come from a worldview that says that every human being has dignity and worth.
Not to disrespect any religion in general, but in my eyes, that's just pushing a belief onto someone rather than actually stating a real concrete fact.
So everyone has a belief, everyone has religion, everyone has something that they accept to be true. Not everyone's beliefs are true, and that's kind of where the debate of religion goes. So to say, like, this is a religious argument, whether you're Christian or atheist, two-spirited, whatever, everyone has a perspective on what is moral, what is something that is good to do versus something that's not good to do. So if you are pro-abortion, that is you pushing your beliefs on those who are anti-abortion. So don't get it twisted. Don't stop saying that this is just a Christian belief, because it's not. It's also your belief as well as your religion as well, even if you don't have a name to it, even if it's the religion of self, which is really what Satanism is. I don't know if that's what they call it. But moving on.
I am Ayala. I am 18 years old. I am from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I am anti-abortion. One misconception that I deal with pretty frequently is that we're all Christian, white, old men, and as a Jewish woman, younger, I really want more voices like mine to be seen in the anti-abortion movement because I think we have new perspectives that would help kind of bridge the gap and have us find a little bit of middle ground between our two opposing sides.
Abortion is murder.
So abortion is murder. Yes and no. So it is because it's intentional killing of a human life, but there does have to be an understanding of I want to say it's like mens rea or something, which is when you don't necessarily have the knowledge of that being wrong. So what they were saying about if you just think that it's a couple of cells and not actually a human life, as you would a 2-year-old or a 1-month-old or what have you, then there's room for doubt, if that makes any sense. And it's also on the question of legality. So, I mean, it just depends on how you look at it, especially where you have the military and you have civilians that are collateral damage. That's not necessarily considered murder. It's still killing. It's still wrong, but it was a necessary wrong. At least that's how the military, the government would kind of view those losses of life. Either way, point I'm at though is the killing in any way, shape, or form is not necessarily anything to be revered or anything to be celebrated. So that's just kind of my initial thoughts, and we'll see what the pro-abortion say.
knew they were killing a child, they would do that. I don't think women in America are that malevolent. I think it's very irresponsible and very hurtful to say, oh, this woman's a murderer because she had an abortion.
At least my personal experience, the people who worked there were very understanding. They let me know there is a child that could come out of you in 9 months. Are you sure you want to do this? I knew there was a child in my body. I knew I could have a child in 9 months, and I knew that that child can grow old and be their own person. But I made that choice because I am allowed to have that choice, and especially you are a white man, and you are not allowed to say what I can do with my body, nor any of these other women who are able to carry a child.
I think that's so dangerous.
Yeah, so again, when you have these arguments, especially when they're based on morals, you can't bring in identity politics into this. So to say that you're not a female, you're not a woman, you don't carry a womb, or you're not black and you're not like me or whatever, you can't have a say in XYZ, and like, no, we live in a society. I don't know if people don't like saying that, but we live in a society, we live in a place where how we behave affects others, and it affects the standards and the principles that we want to carry out throughout our society. So again, going back to rape, which again is very much similar to why abortion is wrong, because someone is forcing their will upon somebody else and taking away an option from them that they didn't want. And so it's something where you don't have to be you don't have to look a certain way, be a certain way to have a principle and to fight for that principle. That was the same thing. The people who fought against slavery, they were white. The vast majority of white, because we are in a white majority country. Is what it is. Too bad, so sad, you know? So mostly white people were fighting against slavery. So like, what are you going to tell them? You can't fight against slavery because you're not black in America? Like, no, you're not going to say that. Or if you do, heaven bless you, but next.
I think what she's
If it's a
saying is
child,
that
you should have
whatever
that right.
your morality is, I think that, you know, folks are entitled, that we have freedom of religion, we have freedom from religion. Whatever your moral value is, the issue is trying to turn that into legislation and putting it on someone
Legislatively,
else.
we legislate what's right and wrong all the time.
Thank you.
Yes, so exactly what Sebastian was saying. We legislate morality all the time, or we try to, or that is the goal of legislation. And so there is no freedom from religion. That is impossible. That is literally impossible, because everyone has a religion. Everyone has a set of beliefs that they want to follow throughout the world. As I mentioned earlier, so there's no escape from it. And you're either part of a religion that has a nice collective name, or you don't, because it's your own personal belief or whatever, what have you. But like, you can't, like, the law is to legislate what is acceptable behavior of others and what's not. And so the main thing with abortion, killing of a child, is that, hey, mother, you actually have responsibilities to their child that need to be maintained throughout all stages of life, and you don't get to just kill your child during the first 9 months when your baby is most vulnerable just because you don't like the changes that's going to go to your body. Hey, maybe consider that the next time you decide to have sex with somebody that you don't want to have sex with. Planned Parenthood offer those hysterectomies, offer those tubal ligations instead of abortions. Next.
Even medically, you know, like for Indigenous women, they're 2 times as likely to die from pregnancy-related complications. Who's responsible for that murder if she's forced to carry that baby?
Well, I would be all for working on legislation altogether, where, you know, if the woman's been taken advantage of, or if they've incest.
So what I'll interject here is, if the mother's life is at risk during a pregnancy, there's still no need for an abortion. So either you have an early delivery of the child, because the child and the mother are still treated as 2 separate patients. That's what an OBGYN does. Or the doctor practices triage, which is when there's a literal risk to both patients. Both patients are at risk, and the doctor has to decide which one they have the better facilities, the better care for. So that's not abortion, that's triage. Doctors have to do that all the time. There are plenty of patients, especially when there is a mass casualty, where a doctor's going to have to decide, listen, we don't have the resources, we don't have the time, we don't have enough equipment to treat your particular malformity. I think that's a word. So you're going to be in the expected pile. These people who are more of immediate or delayed urgency or whatever, these people we're going to focus our medical attention on. And so there are plenty of times in hospitals, and I think Grey's Anatomy, I don't know, I don't really watch those shows, but one of those did an episode on that where they want to try to save everyone, try to save as many lives as possible, but they have to save the one that they believe has the best chance of survival based off the current symptoms and what have you. So like you're talking ectopic pregnancies, which again is where the baby is fertilized inside the ovary or inside the tube, or not in a place where it's supposed to be. So it's pretty much it's outside of the womb. And so that's very much dangerous to the mother, and there's like literally no chance of the child developing or growing. And so you have to triage, and that patient, the doctor has to treat the mother as the patient has a higher chance of surviving. So, long story short, there's no abortion that is necessary. Either you have an early delivery or you are triaging, but you're still treating both mother and child as two independent patients. Or not independent, but two separate patients. Next.
Potentially die, we'll make legislation where she can abort that baby, and all of a sudden you're pro-abortion?
No, I'm not pro-abortion. I personally would not like her to choose that option. I think science has come.
Prefer that she die, though, right?
No. I think science has come a long way where that's vastly not the case anymore within our medical community, and we need to continue to increase funding for those mechanisms to provide more research on how to keep the woman alive in those situations.
What is the end goal here, that abortion be illegal and it be criminalized and removed as a resource forever from this country? Is that the
Illegal and unthinkable.
illegal and unthinkable?
Yes, abortion needs to be illegal, needs to be unthinkable. Don't do it. I know that many women will still try to attempt abortion. You might have black market for abortion pills that actually kill the baby. Plan B is not an abortion pill. It's still it's still a contraceptive. For those who are wondering, so an actual I feel like an actual pill that is able to target the baby that's growing inside a mother's womb to kill it is also going to do a lot of damage to the mother. So that's just kind of my thoughts, but not besides the point. Moving on.
And unthinkable. So it is culturally
For women, we want women to have resources, first of all, to where they don't need an abortion, and then abortion for the abortionist is criminalized. So an abortionist could go to jail for performing it. Women should not be criminalized, because at the end of the day, women are victims of abortion as well.
Women are victims of abortion as well, and I think there's I don't know, I'm still partially conflicted on this, because I feel like not holding the women accountable but holding the abortionist doctor accountable kind of still takes away that responsibility or accountability from the mother from going to that doctor in the first place, or being an aid or a complicit aid into that surgery. Like, the doctor wouldn't have been able to perform the surgery that killed the baby if that mother hadn't willingly gone there. So I think not punishing that mother either with a fine or jail time or whatever, like I feel like that still kind of leaves them off the hook, so to speak. But I do understand that women are a victim of abortion as well. Like it is. There's a lot of mental trauma because they're literally going against their nature. They're doing something that they're not meant to do. Like, women are meant to nurture, build, provide, care. Like, they literally bring life into the world, and it's almost a stigma that women bring in life, men take away life. You know, the savagery of men, killing, all the other stuff. And so, a woman doing that is, again, just really anti-feminine, anti-woman. It's very traumatic, and you know, it is. Everything is forgivable to God, but they have to find that repentance in themselves unto God. So that's not neither here nor there, though.
Abortion should be accessible to rape and incest survivors.
All right, so before we get into their conversations, I am still, again, very much with the anti-abortion side. So to be clear, there's two separate things to separate. There's a morality side where the child should not be punished for the crimes of the parents or the crimes of the father. We say that in Christianity a lot. So you shouldn't kill the child for something that their parents did. I think for something, especially with rape and incest, not really incest, especially if it's by choice, but it's certainly for rape, I think there's something where that mother should be offered the early delivery of her child. So I think there was a new record, a baby was born at 21 weeks old and was kept alive in a NICU. And so having an early delivery be offered, I think under the government's dime, that would be something I'm fine paying for with my taxes. But if a rape victim happens to become pregnant, because all rape victims become pregnant, but if a rape victim does become pregnant, that be offered to her, so there's like the minimal time that her body has to adjust to carrying a baby. So an early delivery, baby's kept in a NICU, and then for the father / the man who decided it was a good idea to rape that woman, public castration. You don't get to have your testicles anymore. You don't get to have your balls anymore. You don't get to have your sperm anymore if you're gonna be child stupid. So I don't know why I know why, but I think that's a right action to take against a rapist, a male rapist. I'd indicate what the equivalent would be for a woman rapist, and she becomes pregnant due to rape. Those seem to be rare, but more to follow. But in terms of men's, I think that should be a righteous action. And then for incest, that's just wrong. It's morally wrong. I think in some places it's illegal. I don't know what to say for that. Don't have sex with your siblings or anyone that you're blood related to. Don't be gross. Don't be nasty. All right, next.
If you're pregnant from your brother or your cousin or your father, especially if it wasn't consensual, or even if it was, you should still have that option to abort the baby. And especially if you've been raped, there are some people who have that thought, like, oh my God, like, what if when I look at my child, I relive that trauma?
That's a reminder.
And not saying that's how all rape victims view it, but it's just like some women have that fear.
I think it's also, again, we know that the adoption and the foster care system is in need of some serious revamp, and that's actually something that I'm really, really passionate about. That I want to start a nonprofit in that realm once I get out of my current job. But I think it's also something we understand that the foster care system isn't the best system, but it's also not just a anti-abortion problem. That should be everyone's problem. So whether you are pro-abortion or anti-abortion, you shouldn't just toss that to one side and say, well, this is your view, you should care about fixing it. We should all care about fixing it and making that better. So that's also just not really the issue that's at hand. Ooh, I'm talking far away from the mic. Hope you can hear all that. But that's not really an issue that's at hand for again, the nature of abortion and what it actually is. And so I think, again, along those lines, I think most people who are anti-abortion are willing to make that compromise. So, because again, rape and incest account for less than 1% or 2% of all abortion cases that ever exist. So, I would concede that, yep, okay, rape and incest, we'll give away some ground there. The rest of the 98% of those abortions are off the table. And of course, with rape, even if that concession were made, I don't know. I don't think I could do that. Because with rape, you would have to then have an actual conviction of the rapist and not being able to abort that child until then. And usually a lot of these trials go very, very long as far as with the legal process. So I'm not sure how effective that one would be, but usually that's where most anti-abortions are willing to compromise, because That's what a compromise is. You're not entirely happy. The other people aren't entirely happy, but you got a nice little middle ground, so to speak. So moving on.
Tap on what you said though, because you said you really wanted to keep your daughter. And although you don't, see it as the rape baby and stuff, other people who also go through that traumatic experience may actually see it like that, right? You wanted that, but there's other people that had their a choice taken away from them. They shouldn't be shamed at going through this and even having to live through that experience of the rape baby.
Here's the thing. When you get an abortion as a reaction to rape, you are continuing the cycle of violence. So you were raped, that was a violent experience that happened to you, that wasn't your fault, you're hurt, you've been victimized. Why is it fair to further victimize someone else because you are hurt?
And again, with, I think his name's Asher, what he's saying is like, I completely understand that's the problem with rape. The problem with rape is that that rapist has taken that other person's choice away from them. There was no consent, it wasn't mutual, it wasn't wanted for, it wasn't asked for. And the same thing applies to baby and to that child's life that mother is taken away. That baby didn't ask for it. The baby didn't want their life to be taken from her. Like, it would have still continued to grow. There are plenty, and I've met and worked along some of those people who were children of rapists, children of an aborted or a botched abortion. So someone who was supposed to have been died. Most have been dead, but is currently living, loves the life that he has, and it's like I don't get these people. It's like, why would they want me dead? Like, everyone knows that life is suffering, that there's going to be something that you suffer in life, and some things are worse than others, and everyone's suffering is is not equal, that's for sure. But to say that, to use your own personal perspective of who will be suffering on anyone else is just unfair for them, because again, with everything in life, it's how you respond to it, how you react to it, and you are literally taking that choice away from that child when you kill them. And I say you to people who are pro-abortion.
But you're seeing it as a someone though, man. I'm putting myself in a woman's shoes or a human being's shoes, right? You take my choice away. You rape me. And for all you know, I might be a struggling human being, right? Making $8 an hour or something like that. Crazy bills. I might be living in my car. I might be sleeping under the dumpster behind McDonald's. But now, because of your opinion, right, and my traumatic experience.
Again, he keeps saying he's putting himself in a human being's shoes. And if you were doing that, then you would be able to keep that object permanence of yourself into the state that you were in the womb. Like, you were just as important when you were in the womb as you are now, and all the life experience that you have thus gained until this point. So again, same person you are now is the same person who was inside a mother's womb at one point, and that's not something that needs to be taken lightly. Like, it's like, people, like, you're important. I gotta tell you that. People are important. Like, gosh darn it. Make me so upset. All right, next.
Be living in my car. I might be sleeping under the dumpster behind McDonald's. But now, because of your opinion, right, and my traumatic experience, I get shamed because I don't want to bring this life into the world, bro. Oh, but you should give birth and then put it in foster care if you don't want it, bro.
I want to touch on that too, just for a second. Like, for trauma, I think absolutely what I am passionate about is giving people the choice. And for you thought.
And again, the pro-abortion side keeps missing the point that we're not talking about the choice of the mother, we're talking about the choice of the kid that's inside the womb that doesn't have a voice. Again, like, literally no one asked to be on this earth. Literally no one. No one asked to get born, no one asked to be conceived, no one asked to go through the life that they have. Everyone has their own independent traumas, everyone has their own independent struggles. And everyone also has their own independent choice on how they react to those struggles. So killing the child doesn't end the suffering, it just ends the sufferer. And it's not like what these women and Asher keep missing, is that this is not about you. It's not about you as a woman. It's not about myself as a woman. It's about someone else. And so I think that's just a really important nuance that just keeps being talked over. Is like, yeah, we get it that you have a choice. We also understand that not all choices are reprehensible. think that's the word I'm looking for. Not all choices are good. Not all choices should be allowed. Rapists shouldn't be able to just freely rape someone without, they should be able to rape somebody without consequences or punishments. We know this. Murderers, like everything that's, like, they shouldn't be able to just murder people and walk away scot-free. There are some things that we should allow and some things that should not, and abortion is one of them. So killing a child, not a good thing. And mothers and parents, fathers should not be able to kill their child without any consequences. Got a little heated. But next.
Thought about your choice and you wanted that pregnancy, and I'm really sorry that you lost that child. And I also thought a lot about, for myself, when I went through that experience, what choice would be best for me. And for me, that was not carrying the child. And I think trauma is such an interesting thing. For me, not having control over a child growing inside of me and changing my fate of my life, that would be more traumatic than the initial experience. We don't know how people are going to react, but I do fight and would want them to have the choice to do what's best for them.
And again, she says this, Little Dove says this, I don't know how people are going to react, but I want them to have this choice. Who is them? Certainly not the baby in the womb. And Ashley said this brother, it's like, well, I just don't see them as a person, which again, the literal definition of dehumanizing somebody and thinking that you can just do anything you want with them, which is the problem. That's literally, not even metaphorically, literally, the problem with every single crime that's ever existed, whether it's slavery, whether it's murder, whether it's rape, whether it's lying, whether what have you. And I mean, the Bible says it's the golden rule: treat others as you want to be treated. Do you want to be murdered in cold blood? I sure don't. Do you want to be lied to? Sometimes. Tell me I'm pretty. I'm sorry. Point of the matter is, treat others as you want to be treated. That's treat everyone with the same dignity and human respect that you deserve as being a child of God, being made in the image of God, as the essential part of your being. And so slavery is wrong because you're treating a fellow human as property, as if they're less than, or like less than, worse than, worthless, not good enough, not deserving of having their own autonomy, having their own property, having their own what have you. That's what makes it bad. And I don't know why we can't draw the parallels. Why can't we draw the parallels?
I think a strange misconception that people have about people who are pro-abortion is that we don't have respect for life or we don't care about children. That's absolutely not true. I respect life very much. Unfortunately, I've also seen a lot of negative aspects of our systems in the US, like the foster care system. It's out of that respect that I believe people should have the right to choose an abortion.
Again, literally makes no sense. You can't have respect for life and then also say that it's okay to kill children in the room. That's literally the opposite of respect for life. That's literally saying that the life in the room does not deserve life, and because the mother doesn't want that child to have life, that's not a respect for life. And that's, again, understanding that, as I said before, the foster care system is a system that sucks. It's not, I mean, as far as what I know of it, again, I want to do what I can in my realm, starting my nonprofit, to help foster kids in the system. But besides the point, like, that's not a good excuse for saying, well, either the foster care system or kill the child. Take away their choice of how they want to respond to life. Take away the child's choice of whether they decide life is worth living or not, which, I mean, that's what makes kind of suicide bad, but it is still a personal choice. Don't suicide, though. Don't suicide. Don't suicide. But again, it's like that. You can't. They're holding two conflicting beliefs in contention when they're not compatible. They're not compatible, and you have to be real with that. Like you can't. It's just mind-boggling. On to the next one.
America offers resources to help you raise a child.
And so, yes, America does offer resources. I don't think that the resources should be coming from the government. I think that is something where especially our churches need to be stepping up to the plate to be those sanctuaries for these mothers or for these adoptive families or for these children. But for it to come from the government, I don't think that's necessary. I think what America really excels at, or what it used to be good at before all this leftist ideology came into play, is that it was encouraging the power of the people, because we the people, to do the things that they care about and to support the issues that they want. And so that's why donations and charity is a lot higher here. And that's not saying that all charities are picture perfect and aren't without their corruption, because we're human, we're fallen. That's to be expected. But for the most part, most charities, especially the smaller ones that don't really have much to their name, their whole intent and purpose is to provide good to the community that they're in. And so you'll see that where you put your money where you want your money to go with donations, and not necessarily having it being forced and taken away, because the government can't pay for anything on its own. It's always going to come from the people and from society. So I think it's a balance of understanding when sometimes your mistakes are yours to make and yours to own up to alone, and sometimes it's okay for the society and taxes and whatnot to come in and support. But it's a tough balance that I don't think we've established well within our country, and it's not for want of trying to hurt the poor or hurt the forlorn or whatever, but I think it's, again, where some things need to come from grassroots, come from the people, and not necessarily from the government. The government doesn't have to be daddy and everything. So this is a balance that I think we're gonna make. Oh my gosh, this video is long. Next.
Been a pregnant teenager, and I've also been a teenage mother on welfare and unemployed. The number of resources that are available state to state is something that is atrocious. But what it comes down to is a lot of time and energy. The choice between, do I go to work and get the money to pay rent, or do I go and I sit in the office, or do I go to this nonprofit who's requiring me to fill out this application and come to a meeting in the daytime when I'm supposed to be working?
So you see it kind of like a job, like you're clocking in to fill in paperwork and you're receiving your check.
It is. Low resources and creating these sort of impossible hurdles and more barriers for people who are already experiencing them to overcome to get the help is not a help at all.
And I feel like a complete...
And again, this is why I said what I said as far as with the government and taxes and personal choices. Again, no one outside of rape, which again, less than 1% of abortion cases, no one is forcing these people to have sex. And no one is choosing who these people have sex with. Like, at all. No one told these people, you need to have sex with this person or else you're going to go to jail. Or you need to have sex with this person or this is going to happen to you. Like, no one's doing that. No one's controlling who you have sex with or whatnot. So these are your personal decisions that you need to make. This is something that I was taught in school. I was taught by my parents. There are consequences to your choices. And when you're having sex with someone outside of marriage, these are some of the consequences. They're not good consequences. I mean, it should encourage more people to want to stick and stay with marriage. I mean, at a rate right now, you see my previous videos on marriage. I don't have to talk about it. Point of the matter is, though, is like you wouldn't have to worry about going to a job. I sound so heartless. I swear I care. Doesn't sound like it. But you wouldn't have to worry about going to search for ways to help your children as a single mom or as a teen mom if you had sex with a man inside of marriage and you had participated in the traditional gender roles where the husband goes out and he makes the money and he brings in that bread and you're not jealous or envious of him and you're just happily taking care of your child because that's what you want to do. And if you want to go to work, you can to provide additional income. That's your prerogative. But point of the matter is that your actions have consequences, and some of these consequences aren't necessarily the government's job to pay or the society's job to pay, especially people who have made the right choices. Like, these things are supposed to encourage good behavior discourage bad behavior. So to make people think twice about the actions that they're taking. Because again, said it before, all pregnancies 100% preventable. Moving on.
It is extremely hard to be a single mother who is also a woman or person of color and to get resources. Especially Black women, they are notoriously, even in that room where they're giving birth, they aren't taken seriously.
Well, I just want to say one thing because I think it's important. So I might not look it, but I'm Native American, have my Cherokee card and everything. We have universal health care in the Indian community. And when she went to have me as a child, they told her in that universal health care system that she's not allowed to have pain medicine because that's a luxury. So she got it through government assistance. So that's a big deal that the United States is more for than the Native American community.
That is
I'm glad we're
such a low
discussing.
bar.
No, I'm not saying that's acceptable. I'm not saying that's acceptable, but I'm saying like
It exists.
it exists. That story exists.
But there are literal reservations out there that do not have water, do not have electricity, do not have internet. That is in 2021. Are those not resources to raise a child?
So let's
Why is
address
the government
that instead of killing the
To
baby.
say that
That's
the
right.
government, the
Let's
question
address
is,
that.
does
That's
the
what I'm
government
saying.
provide resources? No. Does America provide resources? No. That's unacceptable.
And again, it's like, it's not to sound heartless or uncaring, but there are some choices that you need to actually think through the consequences, and it shouldn't come at the expense or at the life of another, especially not a life of a mother killing her child, which is what abortion does. So it's not America's job to care for every single child. It takes a community or whatever. Like, not everyone, like, some people made the right choices and they need to just focus on taking care of their children. Like, they don't have what they need to do to take care of everyone else's child or every other mother and father who made a poor mistake or poor decision. There are plenty of organizations, though, again, churches, nonprofits, or for-profits that are willing to help and aid, but that's donational money. But again, it's like there is definitely a balance. You can't just throw all of your own problems and mistakes that you've made onto society and just expect for them to be there for everything that you've failed to do on your own, because that's just not fair to everyone else. It's not. So again, not to sound heartless, I know I do. You probably, some of y'all just probably like, I say y'all like I have a, besides the point. I say y'all, so it's not to, like, they provide resources, it's not enough, but it's also not supposed to be enough. Like, this isn't, no one should be wanting to be a single mother, a single father. No one should be wanting to have to give their child up for adoption because they weren't in a place where they could take care of their child on their own. Like, that's a horrible start to motherhood. When you're unable to care for your own child, like, that's gotta suck. I can't say anything from experience, but that can't be too fun. So what it should be doing is, hey, you are an individual human being with agency. You have control over who you sleep with. You have control over that. So use that control wisely. These are your choices. Practice abstinence. Work on yourself. You know, you don't always have to have vaginal or oral sex or vaginal sex. There's oral, there's anal. Dildos are a big thing. So I don't know. There's so many other options to prevent these types of things without a baby even needing to be in existence to begin with. Once that baby is in existence, you don't just get to kill him. Okay, we're almost done.
Abortions will continue to happen regardless of the law.
So, yes, abortions will continue to happen regardless of the law. Rapes still happen regardless of the law. Murders still happen regardless of the law. Thieves still regardless of the law. And you'll hear this later down the lines, but it sure prevents a lot more from happening. I mean, you see the rise in lootings and thievery in states that have defunded the police or have pretty much decriminalized stealing. And it's like that emboldens a lot of people to go out and steal. It's definitely preventative. It's not meant to stop it. Even slavery is still a thing, and that's in human trafficking, especially as it comes to the southern border, and sex trafficking at that. So it's like you have to, we have to take a stand at what are things that should be allowed and what are things that should be prevented for the betterment of society. And so that's my take on it. Let's listen to what they have to say.
That ain't never gonna change.
I think, of course, they'll continue to happen. A law doesn't mean that something is not going to happen at all anymore, just like rape, just like murder, just like anything else we've outlawed. Just because they're still going to happen doesn't make it right.
But if you criminalize doctors and abortion providers, right, that means we no longer have providers. That means abortion is no longer an option. And that by default, the way that this country, and especially my state, legislates will mean, and it has happened, we have precedent, a woman who tries to self-induce or who tries other non-medical methods to have an abortion can and has been criminalized. What is the policy that doesn't just absolutely take away the right that people have to access an abortion, regardless of what their beliefs are?
And I kind of despise that argument as well, as far as with, well, if a woman doesn't have the right to abort or kill her child, she's going to go and try other really dangerous means and ways of trying to kill a child that can put her own life at risk. And it's just like, well, don't do that. Again, especially with our technology advancing, babies are being able to be delivered a lot earlier than they need to. Still not recommended. Probably the best place for a child to grow and develop, especially for 9 months, is in a mother's womb. And then as well, it's just like, why I don't feel sympathy. I sound so heartless. I don't feel sympathy for women who are trying to go to who have made the decision to be pregnant, to get pregnant, to sleep with someone who got them pregnant, that they didn't want to keep and maintain the child. And I know that there are plenty of other pregnancies of married personnel who just didn't want to keep having kids. And if that's the case, you should have maybe thought about a vasectomy, hysterectomy. Those are probably more viable options once you've already had kids and you've decided that you're done. Besides the point, point of the matter is you don't get to just treat humans as commodities. And if a woman is going to go that far out of her way just to kill her child instead of waiting 6 months, letting her body run its course, giving that baby up for adoption, it's just, in perspective, it's just like, you didn't have to make that choice. Like no one, especially again, no one's forcing those women to hurt herself in that bodily manner. Like, just don't do that. I sound so evil. Oh well.
If that child is a human being deserving of the right to life, then yes, it should be criminalized, just like murder of 2-year-olds and 5-year-olds, and adults is criminalized, right?
But that's so different, though. You have people that's 2 years old, already out the womb. They've been here for years, right? And then you got these cells.
Can I ask you something?
Go ahead.
When does it stop being a clump of cells?
Personally, I'm not worried about the clump of cells.
Decades of medical research has
understand
not been
why
able
we're
to
ignoring the
land on
question.
that
And
answer.
I'm trying to answer your question. As far as
Do
the
you
cells,
believe that abortion should be allowed?
So yeah. So again, a lot, especially with Asher. We're all a clump of cells. We are a bunch of cells working together in harmony. We're more complex than what we were as a zygote, because we continue to grow and we will continue to grow. We will continue to age until we die. So, like, that clump of cells argument has become very, very old and debunked so many different times. And I think it's still, and the Supreme Court case was talking about this, but like these are very important things to distinguish and to determine, because we're talking about human life, which is valuable, it's important. I just want to say that. Almost done.
Let's not act like women are just deciding to get abortions at during their 2nd or 3rd trimester. And the women who are doing it, it's either that they're going to die giving birth, or it's under some medical circumstances, because I doubt, even myself, I doubt that I would get to a 6-month, 7-month mark and then decide, oh, actually, I don't want to make this commitment. I feel like there's a lot of this conversation, like, when does it become wrong?
So in my
When
state,
it's-
in my state, this is
So most pregnancies, as far as I understand, especially when they're performed after or in the third trimester, usually if a child makes it to the third trimester, there's no reason to abort that baby. Just deliver that baby early if you're like done and you have the money to do that, or just wait until you can deliver that baby. But for the most part, what I have seen and the stories that I've read is that there are some women who are in a back and forth with their boyfriends about whether or not that boyfriend will stay around. And usually it's a very manipulative thing of the woman to do, where they'll hold that baby, grow that baby, and they're still in this back and forth with their boyfriend and like, hey, this is my child, I need you to stick around, I need you to pay, blah, blah, blah. But the boyfriend or whomever gives an ultimatum, and out of spite or out of whatever, the girlfriend decides, well, he said he's not going to stay around anymore, so I don't want his baby no more, so I'm just going to kill it. And they do that late in the pregnancy. So that is a reality, and it does happen. I can't say how frequently, but it is something that happens, and there certainly have not been enough limits on abortion, especially in America.
Any side of any controversial issue, you're always going to have those extremists. Same thing on the pro-abortion side. People are always going to have feelings, and people are always going to fight on that level, right? But I think it's about coming up here and saying, like, what actually makes common sense, and how do we come up with policy that doesn't force folks to live by other people's values.
So yeah, this is a long video. All right, so those are my thoughts on the Jubilee's middle ground, pro-abortion, anti-abortion, is abortion murder comment. Again, I do think it's something that we just need to provide accountability to everybody, especially when it comes to the life of a child. Those are our most vulnerable population. Those are the people who need the most protection. And it's just, I don't know. Important. I think it's an important, still important debate. Abortion is never ever going to go away. Just as murder is never ever going to go away. Rape is not ever going to go away. Thievery is not ever going to go away. But I don't think it's something that we should promote as a society. And especially, and one really big thing, because especially for the Black community, and I don't like playing into identity politics much, but as we all know, Planned Parenthood started off as a eugenics against Black folks, and a lot of Planned Parenthoods are around the poor communities, which is where a lot of Black communities tend to reside. And I think it's just funny how our population as a country has grown, yet the proportion of Blacks in America seems to stay at that 13%, because a lot of Black women are killing their children. So it's a touchy subject. Sucks. I'm very firm in my beliefs. Like, that's just not anything that's going to change. I will still do anything that I can to help and support those in the foster care system and those against abortion and whatnot. But I do think that support for the single mothers needs to come from ground root social groups, not necessarily from the government itself. Also, people need to make better choices before a baby is conceived. These are the things that you need to consider before having sex. They're very, very much important. But just let me know what you think. What did I get wrong? Nothing. But let me know what you think. Let me know what I got wrong. Let me know what I need to potentially reconsider and reconstruct about my worldview. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. This is a long video. Thanks for bearing with me if you did.